Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the show committed to helping you dismantle the destructive mindset programs keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance so you can get out of your own way and play to your potential. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a high-performance hypnotherapist and mindset coach with 16 years of experience helping thousands of individuals like you get unstuck. This podcast features a collection of solo episodes, conversations with scratch and plus handicap golfers, and master classes with top experts in the performance psychology space. The one goal? To help you make playing to your potential a habit.
I've been on 100 podcasts, and I don't know what it is, but that was one of the more impressive interviews and podcasts I've done. And so what I would tell your followers is really share. I'm not saying this for me, share this for him. So that way he can keep on growing this podcast. Because I think you can do really good things in the podcast game. Like that was good, man.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, fellow golfer. Welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist. And today I am joined by a man who, to be frank, needs no introduction, but simultaneously deserves the longest introduction one could possibly give to highlight the vast number of accomplishments and ways he has given back and grown the game of golf. I am joined today by no other than Scott Fawcett, who created the revolutionary Decade golf system, which, if you didn't know, is a data-driven course management strategy system that has transformed how golfers at all levels approach the game. And today, yes, we're going to dig into all things Decade, but this conversation transcends golf. We talk poker and just the constant quest to be the best version of yourself. And perhaps you didn't know, Scott holds 3 degrees in mathematics. He's got a background in professional golf, competing professionally on mini tours, playing collegiate golf at Texas A&M. He's got a passion for the game of poker, like I mentioned, and his Decade system has been used by top PGA Tour pros, including Bryson DeChambeau and Will Zalatoris. I believe Scott says 40, maybe 50 current pros are using Decade, as well as dozens, if not hundreds, of collegiate and amateur golf seeking that strategic edge. Buckle up. You're going to learn a tremendous amount from Scott in today's episode. Without further ado, get the note-taking device ready, and please help me welcome Scott to the show. Scott, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. I'm going to need some mindset, though. I've been going through an absolute disaster of building a pool and trying to sell an old house right now. So I need some hypnotherapy, to say the least. This might turn into a therapy session.
Help release some of that stress and anxiety that I'm sure is present.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got a question for you. It's going to come out of left field, but I'm curious. Would you rather be the chip leader going into the final table of the World Series of Poker main event, or in the final pairing of Sunday's Masters?
I mean, I would have to say the final pairing of Sunday's Masters.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I do love playing poker, and I could probably fold my way to third place if I was the chip leader, but which is a lot of money. But I'm a golfer at heart, so money doesn't really do much for me. I've got more than I need. I make more than I can spend. Money. This, I know this is not the answer to the question, but like, this is why I always watch some of the live stuff and everything. And I'm like, how much money do you need? Like, at some point, how much do you actually need? And, I've been fortunate enough that I don't need a whole lot more at this point. So I'm going to take golf all the time.
Yeah, I love that answer. And something that, we've talked off camera about is, you have a passion for the game of poker. You haven't played all the way up to the nosebleed levels in terms of stakes and whatnot. But as a former professional poker player myself, working with both golfers and professional poker players, I am infatuated with the numerous parallels between the two. And I'm curious, even we're going to dig into the mathematics of it, like, what have you seen as you've studied and worked with some of the best golfers out there? You yourself are an incredibly successful golfer. That is similar to be successful on the poker table or vice versa? What are those tangibles and intangibles that allow each of these individuals to excel in their respective sports?
Well, it's not even that golf and poker are similar. They're identical. I mean, Decade is 100% poker math. So I'm good with math. I've got, finance, economics degrees. I was in the gifted programs growing up to where I did just those grid style logic problems all day long. Like I'm good at that stuff. And so when I finished playing professional golf in 2001, I think Rounders came out in like 98. And I could drive you to the Red Roof Inn in Orlando that I watched that movie every single morning while I was there playing in a teardrop tour event, literally 1998. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. If there's like one disappointment and probably lucky thing in my life, it's that I didn't realize you could just stick $20 in online and grind your way up, because I do believe I would have been just right in the middle of it. And I do think I would have been pretty good at it. Now, that being said, I've got my own set of vices where it probably would have all imploded at the end of the day. So it's probably a good thing I didn't do that. But to your question specifically, like getting mad after a double bogey is identical to going on tilt. Understanding Decade is just shot patterns are the equivalent of a deck of cards. We've got the rule of 2 and 4 in poker, and that you can take that right on out to remaining expectation. Again, this is where it's funny. When I spoke at MIT's sports analytics conference, I'm like, oh, you guys are really good at math. Like, I'm pretty good at golf. I'm pretty good at math. But at the end of the day, everything I did is just very basic weighted average math. Now, what I will say then is, though, going out and caddying for Zalatoris in 2014 and really just observing, when you're caddying, you really leave your own emotional attachment to outcome on the sidelines. Like, obviously I wanted Will to win, but it wasn't going to change my life either way. It would actually wound up changing my life. But once you're caddying for someone, you can make the cleanest decisions ever. And the inner self-talk, like when he would hit a bad shot, I'd be like, hey, man, it's okay. We're going to go down there. We're probably screwed. We're probably going to pitch it out, hit it to 20 feet, make bogey, and move on. And it's like being able to have aces, go to the flop, all of a sudden rockets are, fireworks are going off before you, probably not any good anymore. And so just removing this attachment to where you were, what you held in a previous position on the tee of a par 5, a reachable par 5. Yes, this might be an air quotes birdie hole, but once you hit it in the trees, it's not anymore. Pocket aces are great until 4 people go to the flop and there's a lot of action. And there's so many parallels. It's incredible. And this is what's so weird to me is I play this internet smart guy, but whenever I was dead broke and playing professional golf, if you had me in the top 10 going into the final round, I was much more engaged and I did really well. Okay. But if I was just going in at like 32nd and trying to grind out whatever place finish, and on those mini tours, it's like $100 or $2 difference. Like I just didn't get into it. And so I just didn't have that grind in me for whatever reason. And that's very similar to what we were saying before we started about poker. Like I'm a calling station. I understand this is a terrible call, but like, I just want to see. And I do think that that's what I've gotten better at as I've gotten older, especially because I've just now got strategy on lock where it doesn't matter if I'm checked out. I'm going to make solid decisions. I'm going to play solid golf. And it doesn't, where I stand either leading or grinding out a cut is completely irrelevant now for me.
How does the understanding of the mathematics and like you said, like basic mathematics for all of our golfers listening, how does that help you better remain detached from the outcome and focused on your process?
Well, I've got a joke that I say all the time where every decision you make in life is technically math-based, whether you realize it or not. And something as trivial as crossing a street is a math-based decision. I'm going to personally wait until it's 100% positive I can cross a street. Now, if you threw a pack of lions behind me, I might lower that number to like 10% because I'd rather get hit by a car than eaten by lions. And so I am actually doing weighted average math there. There is a cost-benefit analysis that you are actually making in any decision in life. And so I do jokingly say you don't need to be good at math to understand Decade. Like the hardest math is 7 minus 2 minus 4. That's as difficult as it gets. But I'm also like, it sure doesn't hurt either, though, because I do believe that people are good at math, are good at logic. On average, they understand how to ask the right questions. And so it's really important at the end of the day. And that's, when I first did the seminar at SMU back in 2015, DeChambeau sitting in the room, as well as a kid named Andrew Buchanan, who he wound up winning the USGA 4-ball with another teammate of his. And he told me after the seminar, he's like, I've got so many classes that I just don't see the point of right now. But just sitting through that seminar and seeing how we really can boil golf down to a math game, it really opened my eyes to how many different avenues, and experiences in life the same thing exist. Mm-hmm. And again, I feel like being comfortable with that fact really allows you to not be scared of math. Like it's a scary subject for people, I guess. Again, this is where I've never been scared of it, so I don't really understand that. I can understand not being good at it, but being scared of it isn't. And again, just we all understand that backgammon is a math game. Chess is a math game. Each piece has a numerical value. Like these are categorically math games that you're using a dice for. Just your opponent's play, bringing in randomness in chess. Yeah. And again, back to that idea that the shot pattern is what draws in randomness into golf. It just is a deck of cards.
It's so interesting you say that because like you, but not nearly to your degree, I was infatuated with math growing up. Calculus, algebra, those are my jams. I tested out of college math well before I finished high school. Yet, especially in my poker realm, there are so many of my clients who are just afraid of math. I'm a feel-based player is the common description they share. And I'm like, yes, you are. But imagine the amount of power, intellect, and control you possess when you're willing to further understand the math. So for our golfers listening, who first and foremost, let's be frank, they might have no idea of how beneficial math is on the golf course, let alone that it actually exists. What are some of the words of wisdom you share to open their mind to get to a place of acceptance that understanding some of this basic math will considerably help them score lower?
Well, it's all about expectation management. I mean, it is looking back at – I really did do a lot of work over 6 or 9 months from 2013 to 14 creating Decade. Again, it didn't have a name of Decade or anything. I was using the strokes gain statistics, standard deviations of shot patterns, and solving course management. I really was just doing it for my own game. And once Zalatoris won the Texas Am and U.S. Junior with me caddying for him, and then the next person I basically taught it to was DeChambeau 2 months before he won the NCAAs and U.S. Amateur, I really didn't think of this as I've got this product to sell. Yeah. And so once the SMU coach was actually the one who's like, dude, you could sell this. And I was like, okay, I bought the domains beyourowncaddie.com. And then I wanted, because Zalatoris sent me a text that said, you've given me 25 years of experience in 5 days. So I called it, I'm a big Tony Robbins nerd, and he's, this 6 or 7 step process for anything. And so I was like, I'm going to imply we're going to take decades off your learning curve. And so to the point of what your question was, Decade is just an acronym, and the first E is expectation. Yeah. And I do believe that just understanding, you don't have to be good at math to just memorize an 8-foot putt is 50-50, 165 yards in the fairway is where on tour they average 3 strokes to hole out, 100 yards, really it's 97 yards in the rough is where they average 3 strokes to hole out, 32 feet is where they average 2 putts. Just knowing these basic numbers, when you're out there at 160 with an 8-iron and you're like, I got a great chance to get a look at birdie here. It's like, you hit the green and 2-putt it. If you're not on tour, that was an amazing result. And so really, again, this is about avoiding going on tilt at the end of the day. Again, I am a self-admitted, described lunatic. I was a total basket case on the golf course when I was playing professionally in my 20s. And there comes a point where, once you understand an 8-foot putt is 50-50, at best, how can you get mad when you miss one? Yeah. Now, sure, if we miss 5 in a row, we can start to get frustrated. But when you miss one, you just tap in the next one and move on. And if we were flipping coins and I flipped it and you guessed heads and it came up tails, you wouldn't go, son of a bitch, I suck at guessing coins. You're the worst. You just and guess again. And again, if we have. I'm so in my head right now. I've done a few podcasts recently and I'm saying and again so much it's driving me crazy. And so every time I say that this time it's gonna absolutely frazzle me. But the whole thing is about, okay, yes, this is why we do need to track some statistics. We do need to track some data. So that way if my 8-foot make rate is 30%, hey, you probably need to get a little bit better at that. But in real time on the golf course is not the time to be getting mad over results. And there's a guy that I love named Sam Harris who, if I would have thought of it this way when I was younger playing professional golf, he's like, we all treat problems like anomalies. And so while, yes, you know your car is going to break down sometime in the future, the day that it happens, it is an anomaly and it does suck. But you also do have to realize it's bound to happen. But in golf, you know bad stuff is going to happen every single time you play the game. Every time you play the game, it's going to be something bad's going to happen. And yet I used to be like stunned when something bad would happen. And DJ was on an interview with Frank Nobilo during the British Open a few years ago. And Nobilo said, you know, you seem pretty chill out there, man. Like, how do you do it? And DJ's like, look, man, he's just so laid back. He's like, look, man, I hit bad shots every day. Am I really going to get that mad? I hit good shots every day. Am I really going to get that excited? And it's like, God, I mean, everything DJ says just because of his slow draw sounds dumb, but it's all just brilliant savant level golf understanding. I mean, he's an absolute, his golf IQ is off the charts with how he goes around the game. Now, that might just be because of who he is, but he is the prototypical guy that I think is unbelievable to watch.
Where do you recommend? Because what I'm hearing, and these are my words, not yours, like there is a competitive edge when you can cultivate a sense of stoicism on the course. You are detached from outcomes. You in a sense, have to become emotionless. Yet you, me, and the game of golf, we're emotional beings. So how do we begin to detach from that emotion and remain level-headed, clear, composed, navigating, one of 70 or 80 shots throughout a round?
Well, I mean, I know you're the golf hypnotherapist, but I'm a big proponent of meditation. I don't know if those are overlapping Venn diagrams or what, but they're just a meditation process. Again, this is where it's hard because a lot of what I talk about doing, it's not easy, but we're talking about trying to be one of the best players on the planet. And so if you're taking the time to listen to this podcast, I assume it's because you want to play better golf. And there's a nice little side benefit to a meditation practice. It's going to help you in your job, your parenting, your relationships. It is the tide that lifts all boats. Yeah. And so personally, Tim Ferriss has a funny way that he says this. When he tried to meditate when he was younger, he would just get all pissed off because he would still be thinking constantly, and he would slam a pot of coffee and storm out the front door. And like, that was me. It never, like the saying, you need to take the yoga off the mat. There's a saying that Sam says, you've got to take the meditation off the cushion. And that's really, it clicked for me in his 28-day intro course. He said, at the end of he kind of gives you little things to think about over the last minute. So it was on day 10 or 12. He's like, okay, now I want you to just get up and I want you to take this mindset into your day. And I was like, oh, that's the point. It's so obvious and so dumb, but I'm building a pool right now that's a total disaster here in Dallas. If anyone's ever considering building a pool with gold medal pools in Frisco, Texas, do not do it. There's my little standing statement just to mess with them. But last Thursday, I lost my mind on my sales rep. This pool is literally 5 months overdue now, and they still have no end date in time. I completely lost my mind on this person, and I still stand by that it was okay. I'm justifying it in my own head. But I probably could have said a few things a little bit differently than I did. And I just personally, I did not practice my meditation there. I did not give myself a second between stimulus and response. I just lost my mind. I just took my brain out of my head and I threw it over the wall, and I'll pick that up in a half an hour. And that's what we're trying to avoid. I mean, and I would ask you the question that, we literally back in the late 90s thought Tiger was playing golf hypnotized, pocket watch hypnotized, that's what we thought. And now the further I get into it, I realize he was playing in a deeply meditative state. I've seen him say that and talk about it many times with his mom, basically getting him started at it during, when he was born. Yeah. And what I try to tell people is we've got a bell curve here where you're a complete crazy person here and Tiger's over here. You're never going to catch up to him. He's been doing this since birth, but we can just keep on working you closer across that bell curve towards him. But like you specifically, what do you do? Tell me about what the golf hypnotherapist is.
Yeah, well, so I loved a phrase you used, and I'll also shout out and credit Sam Harris. Like the Waking Up app is a game changer. I'm on day 15 of the 28-day challenge for like the third or fourth time because I find it so profound to just reconnect with my foundational practice. So I'm thrilled you mentioned that. But that difference between stimulus and response, I often say, the biggest benefit I provide my clients is being able to shift from unconscious reaction, which is that autopilot where that destructive mindset program begins to enter the equation, and shift to a place of conscious response. And aside from the subtleties in my intentional word choice, the only difference is a moment, a pause, a half a second where we remain in control. We don't let some negative emotion hop into the driver's seat of our decisions. And then we choose how we'd like to respond to the situation. So coming back to Tiger and what we were discussing earlier, it's how can I show up on the course and play freely, knowing there's no shortage of course, physical hazards on the course, bunkers, water, whatever it may be, but there's mental, there's emotional hazards. It's your playing partner just birdied 3 holes in a row. You start to feel pressure. You start to feel this urge to push, or you see the leaderboard, or you're fearful of water all on the left-hand side. You don't like this specific distance. This all triggers an unconscious way of being if you allow it to. It typically manifests this tension and tightness, better than I do, the antithesis of that smooth, fluid swing we're desiring. So all of the practice and the work I do, I have to tell my golfers all the time, the biggest benefit is the work you do away from the course. You start to embody that meditative state filled with presence, flow, focus, and calm, and it becomes easier to slip into and remain stuck in throughout the 18 holes on the course.
It's just completely accurate. It's a brilliant, very concise way of saying just everything. Like as you were talking, one thing when you said your opponent makes a few birdies and, birdies 3 out of 5, and you start getting, attached to what they're doing. Golf is a sport where you are playing the course. And actually this guy, Alex Huang, who now is my COO, he actually did own Card Runners. Did you remember Card Runners from back in the day?
Yeah.
He owned Card Runners. It's actually what the Decade app is based off of. He came to one of my seminars like 7 or 8 years ago and introduced himself. And I was like, oh, man, I was a member for like 6 years. And then told him that the idea of voicing over videos was literally from Card Runners. Anyways, he's doing a lot of good work with the bogey avoidance and everything like that. Yeah. And Will, when we were playing the Texas Am, he had like a 3 or 4 shot lead. It's been 10 years, so I'm going to get the details wrong. But this guy from Oklahoma State that was chasing us, he made like 4 30-footers in a 7-hole stretch. And he was running around, fist pumping everything and getting super keyed up. And as we were walking off of 10, I feel like he might have eagled 10 to catch us or maybe even go 1 ahead. And I took Will to the side and I was like, look, man, this guy's making putts from everywhere. But he's getting way over his skis right now, getting super confident that he's just the man right now. And he doesn't realize it's not his long game that's doing it. It's these putts. And I'm going to bet the putting doesn't continue that way. And if it does, we just tip our hats and be like, man, that was one of the best putting rounds I've ever seen. But you keep doing what you're doing. Do not let him affect you. And he's going to make a mistake. And literally on the next hole, Will had hit a great drive down there to like 100 yards. And our opponent was, Will was blowing it past and was like 140. And I told Will, I said, because this pin was on this dead back little ledge. And I literally told him, I was like, he's going to mess this one up right here. He's going to have like a 9-iron in his hand. And he's going to see you up here with a sand wedge or lob wedge. He's going to attack this flag more than he should have. And it's not been his long game that's going to work out right here. And he airmailed the green into a dead spot. Will put it to like 10 or 12 feet. I don't remember if Will made it or not, but our opponent did not get it up and down. And we were just walking off the green and he was like, that was unreal. And I was like, I'm telling you, I could just see this coming, that he's getting so excited about how great he's doing here. And he's not realizing it's the putter, not his irons. His iron game had not been sharp at all. And I'm like, he's going to start attacking something because he's got false confidence right now. And it just is amazing how I was like, why did I bring up Alex? I totally lost my train of thought there. What he was saying, he's got a great way of thinking of this, is that your opponent is truly the golf course. I know that's a cliche old saying, but since golf is the only sport where you don't play defense, you can't impact your opponent's play. And I've had people be like, oh, you can jingle tees. I'm like, well, that's just chicken shit. Like, no, you can't do that. And how Alex phrased it, he's like, you have to think that your opponent is just playing GTO, like your opponent is the course.
Yep.
It's playing optimal game theory every single time. I'm just here. You are the only one that can make decisions. And I really believe that's a great analogy, because the other one, and this is where I kind of start losing people maybe, but the idea of just pot equity, like at some point in time, like Tiger's a 25% chance to win any given golf tournament he shows up in. He can't increase that to 30%. He's a 25% guy. But other people can give them some of his equity by thinking, I'm playing Tiger Woods. I've got to play perfect golf. I'm starting to force things. And that's, I do believe, what Nicklaus and Tiger both said without understanding what they were saying was, I just got to hang around on that back nine. And it's just amazing how many have just been given to me. And it's like, if that happens just, 10% of the time, that's a couple majors at the end of the day that were just given to them because they were letting their opponent give them their equity.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, and I'll try to keep us on track myself here. But what also came up for me is the concept, which is kind of the opposite of fold equity in poker. By taking the aggressive route, you're increasing the likelihood of winning that hand. You might not even have to show your cards and get to showdown, but because you chose a certain decision, you have taken back some equity. And yes, a little bit different, but similar in the vein you just shared, is in golf, the patience, the detachment from outcome allows you to let others make a mistake, which, in this case, takes Tiger's odds from winning to maybe 25, 28, 30. In the short term, seems maybe insignificant, but in the long term, holy shit, does it add up?
Play 100 majors. There's 5 more majors just because someone gave you their equity. I mean, It really is amazing. And like how you just said there, you can just bet and you can play aggressive. Again, even though poker is not a shared ball sport, it is a shared deck of cards sport. You can impact your opponent's play by playing wild and crazy. I mean, if I'm playing Negreanu or someone, I'd better play like an idiot. As bizarre as that sounds, it's my only chance. I actually need to play really poorly and just kind of cross my fingers. I mean, poorly. I'm not going to out GTO him.
Correct.
I'm not going to outplay him. I'm going to need to increase variance, and you do not want to increase variance in golf. You want to keep it as down as possible.
So let's ride with that example. And whether it's the one of, I said your partner is just birdied 3 out of 5, or in the Zalatoris example where his playing partner might have eagled that one hole and maybe tied or taken the lead. Like, I keep coming back to this concept of risk management, because in that case, I have an imagination. Will's first thought, and I don't want to speak for him, could have been like, okay, I do need to push a little, or maybe there's just a unconscious seed of over aggression beginning to influence his thoughts. If we think about risk management on the course, and we're playing against the course as our primary opponent, what do our listeners need to know about risk management to help them shoot lower scores more consistently?
The fact that this game is entirely about bogey avoidance. I mean, there's a few hills that I've just decided to die on. And this was one from day one, just in watching Will. Again, Will's one of the best ball strikers on the planet. He honestly probably hit the ball better when he was 17 than he does now. With his injuries and everything, I would honestly probably almost guarantee you he hit the ball better at 17. And specifically that summer, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I wish that I tracked where our ball was relative to the target, to the hole. I wish there were some things, because the first round, I literally just every single shot he hit was exactly where I told him to directionally, but I didn't track what it was distance wise. I actually was doing a playing lesson with Will's agent with his son just on Saturday, and I gave him a target on the 8th hole, and I think I'm going to answer your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
But it was a 100-yard shot. The pin was 4 yards from the right, where it's next to a water hazard, and so per decade we want to be aiming 5% of the length of the shot from any edge of the green. So this pin is 4 yards from the right edge. We're 100. We want to be aiming 5 yards from the edge. And now because of the water, we're going to tack on 3 more. So we were aiming 4 yards left of this pin, which with a sandwich from 100 yards looks like a billion miles. I mean, and honestly, like, even I'm telling him before he hit the shot, I'm like, trust me, I know this seems ridiculous, but just we'll see what kind of shot you hit. And then he just hits a laser beam directly at what I told him to. Yeah. And I said, wait a second, because I'm going to show you something when we get to the green that's going to blow your mind. We get up there, I grab his dad, And I'm like, so he hit it exactly where I told him to. And the kid, he was like, I mean, yeah, this is the one that I feel like I knew I could aim it more at the flag. I'm like, well, wait a second. Are you pin high? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh, so he hit it eight yards further than we intended to. I literally threw a coin down what was pin high and on his line. I'm like, you're 24 feet. When you do the trigonometry, when you actually walk from where his ball was to the pin, it was like 30 feet.
Wow.
Like, it's not that big of a difference.
Yeah.
And importantly is just missing those greens a couple times, coming up long or short a couple times. By going towards the middle of the green, he bought himself an extra like 10 yards of distance control tolerance. And it's like, unless you hit it inside of 8 feet, like I'd rather you be 15 feet than 20 feet. But it's not that big of a deal. It's a tenth of a shot. Once you start getting inside of 8 feet, every inch is 1%. But actually getting the direction and distance right on the same shot to where you hit it with inside 8 feet, and the wind, whether it was elevated or not, like all this just comes together to hit it inside of 8 feet. Like, it just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And so that's why you've got to play patient, disciplined, bogey-free golf. Back to Alex. It's ALEXHUANG golf on Instagram.
Must follow.
He's been posting some great stuff lately about avoiding bogeys. And it's just every single time, no matter how he runs the statistic, no matter what level of tournament it is, the people who made the fewest bogeys destroy the people who made the most birdies every single time.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, and that's back to Will, that first round. I was driving home and I was like, I'm pretty sure he would have shot lower if I wasn't here. Now, again, in hindsight, I doubt, just because I know what distance control typically is like, I doubt he actually would have hit that many closer or anything like that. Like, I probably was wrong. He shot 67 the first round, and I'm like, he would have shot 63. Maybe he would have shot 66, whatever. But the next day we come back, and he's slept on the overnight lead for the first time as a high school kid in the Texas Amateur. Yeah. He played awful in the second round. He hit it terrible. And he shot 70. And that day I was driving home and thinking, well, he would have shot a billion if I wasn't there, like, holding his hand. And that's what really told me. The first day I was like, oh, man, I don't know about this. And then the second day I was like, oh, absolutely. And it's because we just didn't make dumb bogeys. He birdied a couple par fives. And I've got a silly saying of stop trying to make birdies. But that's what the kid and I and his dad played on Saturday. We played $10 for every hole that was bogey and higher, and birdie or better did not matter. So it's a way that a college coach has told me that he runs qualifying that way. And the more I've thought about it, I'm like, you would for sure find your best players going 72 holes where you don't count birdies and eagles. You only count over par, because the player with better ball control can intentionally avoid bogeys, whereas the guy that's just getting lucky and making a few birdies on any given day, like, that's not really replicable. Yeah. And so this kid, we went out to do it. And he made two bogeys that were just kind of hard 460-yard holes into the wind and whatever. But he did make one silly bogey, and I even lost track of what we were doing on number 6, where he was 112 to the flag. Okay. It was like 102 to cover this water. And I told him, we would just be hitting this a couple yards past the flag, but also there was 10 yards, so I wasn't really that worried about it either. If I had remembered the point of this game today is to not make bogeys, I would have for sure said, hey, your club is 115 is what you've told me. Just hit it full. Like, I would have made sure to tell him that. I did think it was relatively obvious since he was 112. And he just decelerated on it. And I was like, and hit it in the water. I was like, what happened there? He's like, I don't know. I just didn't hit it full. I'm like, it's because you had that 92 or 102, 112 number in your head, as opposed to if I just even told you 120. You would have tried to rip that club and you wouldn't have hit it that far past. Yeah. It's just so interesting going out and trying to not make bogeys. Saturday was literally the first 9 I had played since December 4th because I had knee surgery. And I went out and my only goal was to not make birdies. And this is on a pretty hard golf course, and I had 7 pars and 2 birdies. Huh. I was just like, didn't expect to play that well. And if any of my buddies in my home Wolf game are here, I'm still not going to be playing to a +4 when we start gambling again in a couple weeks. But it's just not that hard to intentionally not make bogeys. This is all relative to your ability. I'm a +4 handicap. Like, I'm good at golf. But it's, maybe it's for you, it's not that hard to not make doubles, or it's not to not make too many silly bogeys, whatever that is.
Hey, really quick, imagine this. In a single calendar year, you drop your handicap by 6 strokes. You win multiple tournaments and shoot your best round ever. Oh, and you also win Player of the Year in your golf league. That's exactly what my client Luke did in 2024. In a matter of months, he dropped his handicap from an 8.1 to a 1.6. His secret, the only thing he changed about his game, he invested in mindset coaching and high performance hypnotherapy. And through our work together, he was able to conquer fear, release doubt and anxiety, calm his nerves, drastically turn up the volume of confidence, and finally start playing in attack mode. If you're listening to this show, I already know you've got the passion, you've got the work ethic and the commitment to play to your potential. Now it's time to master the mental game to get you there. Use the link in the show notes below to book a mindset coaching discovery call with me today, and let's make playing to your potential a habit. But it's so interesting because you're right. Relative and subjective here are two important concepts we have to include in this conversation.
Say that one more time. I didn't quite catch what you said.
So like I love that point. And what I wanted to add is like speaking of the word like relative, like, you're a +4, I'm a 22 at this moment in time. So there's some differences there. We can augment the game just like you shared. But what I think is really important, this is where a lot of my client work comes into play, is like the birdies are so exciting, Scott. The level of aggression, getting that ego involved, being able to, pick up that cash from your friend or really talk that much more shit. And you and I both know when someone is taking the game seriously, that becomes less important to some extent. I guess my question is there ever a situation where the math backs up taking the hero shot approach, leaning towards the more aggressive approach?
On second shots on somewhat reachable par 5s and on tee shots on somewhat drivable par 4s.
Well said.
On those two situations where you will get the ball within 20 yards of the edge of the green, you're going to make materially more birdies. Okay. And depending on what it is, and I'm saying those, like if there's penalty hazards and stuff involved, that's a spot where we can actually increase variance without destroying our scoring average. We will make more birdies and bogeys. So if I do get myself into a spot like number 18 at the Honda yesterday, is it still the Honda? I don't think it is the Honda. Whatever it is, PJ National.
Cognizant or something?
Cognizant, yeah. I said that. I was like, I don't think it's been the Honda for God knows how long. Anyways, on number 18, that's a spot where, unfortunately, you have to carry it. So like you either can or can't carry onto the green. So maybe it's more like directional hazards, like left and right. You can hit quite a few more shots into those penalty hazards as long as you will get some balls. As long as you'll get some balls putting, it's a pretty good indication that the rest of your shot pattern's in good shape.
I'm really happy I asked that question. That's a phenomenal answer.
So that's a spot where, it honestly, like from a scoring average point of view, it really doesn't matter if you go for it or not. And it does. We're talking about a specific situation generically, which is not possible to do. But those are spots where, I can afford a much higher penalty rate. If my scoring average would be 4.8 either way, if I'm in a spot where I need a birdie and a bogey doesn't hurt me as much, sure, maybe take on a little bit more risk if you want. But I am a very utopian view of I'm not worried about winning. I'm worried about just placing as high as I possibly can, as consistently as I can. And that's where there's so much male bravado, chest thumping. I want to win. Like, okay, I get it. But did you really feel like throwing away $500,000 by making that double and the FedEx Cup points and being in the top 70 at the end of the year to get into the elevated events and the top 50 to get in the majors and the top 30 to get in the Tour Championship and the top 10 for your contract bonuses? It's like there's so many different levels that if you're trying to run essentially game theory out there, you're just kidding yourself again, because the other unique thing about golf is there's, aside from live, I guess with shotgun start, but like it's everybody's game ends at a different time. I'm done 30 minutes ahead of the leaders. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. And so you're trying to run these iterations of what are they going to score? What can I do to that? And it's like, dude, you're probably overthinking this. And I will even say, I kind of thought this earlier when we were talking, there is a part of me that might say, maybe Decade makes the game less sexy. I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say less fun, because to me, shooting lower scores is more fun at the end of the day.
Yes.
You will still make birdies while not technically trying to make birdies. And it feels like semantics. It's not. It's just a lot of your birdies will start coming from, because they still come from your not great shots anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, very rarely do you take a 7-iron, point it at the flag, hit it to 4 feet, make it for birdie. Typically, you pushed it 25 feet and made a 25-footer, or you were aiming 10 feet away from the flag and you just happened to pull it. Like, shot patterns are so big that you just have to play for them and account for 85% of them in your decision making. Yeah. And if you do that, you're going to accidentally make some birdies, and they're probably going to be on the par 5s and the shorter par 4s. Like, that's just the way the game works.
You know, I come back to a quote by Ed Milet. He said, winning is more fun than fun is fun. And if your course management strategy is a bit more stoic and emotionless, you're going to play better golf. And at the end of the day, you're going to be a hell of a lot happier with a lower score.
I'm writing that down because that's a great one. I mean, that's where, like, I do when people are like, oh, I don't know. I want to, you just want to, your ego's involved. You want to take credit for all these great shots, and you just go play good golf. And nothing makes me happier than shooting 68 and having somebody be like, that was just really simple. Yeah, kind of was. I'm curious,
when did your relationship or maybe your definition of winning change? And at what point in your playing career did it change? And what has the impact been for you?
It's definitely been since creating Decade, and just realizing how much of it is out of your control. I mean, it's just so out of your control. And again, this is the problem in golf. You play all 144 other guys at once. In tennis, you know, Federer, I don't know what his first round win rate is, but I bet it's 95%. And I bet it's 95% in the second. It's probably 90+% until the semis.
Yeah.
And so winning for him is 0.95 times 0.95 times 0.95 times 0.9 times 0.7 times 0.6 times 0.5, like making up those numbers. In golf, I got to play every single one of you. Like, Federer for sure would have a lot of matches in the first couple of rounds if he just happened to be playing Djokovic, would have lost.
Yeah.
I mean, but he doesn't have to play him but one time. In golf, I mean, that's when I laugh at, like, some of these, I don't follow fantasy golf much, but when they've got these head-to-head matchups, and they're like, both got him at 65% to win is what the math is spitting out. It's like, well, it can't be that.
Yeah.
And very few matches in the WGC would the player hold a 65% edge.
Yeah.
It's like 55-45 at best in golf. I mean, I'm not trying to play down FanDuel here, but if you're betting on golf, you're probably an idiot. I mean,
don't bet on golf, and do not hire that one specific pool company. Key takeaways. Exactly. I love it.
Gold medal pools. Gold medal. GOLD medal pools. And please, if you know them, tell them I said this on air because it will make me laugh.
That is hysterical. So tell me this, rounding out this particular point of our conversation, just all things course management. For the single-digit handicappers who clearly can play, who clearly have done some work in the mental and the course management strategy department, what is the one mistake they're currently making that you've observed amongst, you know, the indefinite number of individuals you've worked with? What's still holding them back?
I mean, again, it's not one, but the canned answer to that is just not hitting driver off the tee often enough, not shaping the driver one direction and one direction only, and then they're terrible at lag putting from 20 to 40 feet. I mean, that's, please by Decade, I've got a pool to pay for, but dude, if you just shape the driver one direction and you get really good at lagging from 20 to 40 feet, you're going to be probably decent at this game. The challenge, I mean, I jokingly say please by Decade, but the challenge of golf is that no two courses are the same. No two holes are the same. Even the replica holes of Augusta, when I've played them at the other courses, like 2 or 18, like they're not very close. And so every single hole is just different. And so just generic course management advice does not work whatsoever. I do firmly believe the traditional playing lesson is essentially worthless. You're getting it from an assistant pro, with all due respect, who probably wasn't a great player. And even if you go get something from a great player, they've got to filter through their own bias of what made them great. I mean, most people know I've got in a bunch of arguments with Brad Faxon on air before, and he just thinks that he jammed every putt in, and the data just supports that he left 1 in 6 putts short from 16 to 20 feet. That's not a very long putt. And so really figuring out what does and doesn't work, again, that's what Decade tries to just remove that veil of mystery. Traditional playing lessons, we got to favor this side of the fairway so we can get an angle into that pin and this and that. It's like, none of that is right. I mean, none of that is correct whatsoever. And so really understanding there's a lot more to this game, and there's a lot more nuance to what you're going to get in a 1 hour podcast here. Obviously, there's a lot to it, unfortunately.
Well, and another way I think about decade, and I've started my journey to really, one of my goals this year personally is not just to have a basic understanding, is to truly get myself to elite proficiency or mastery, because I having my poker career, I absolutely understand and mesh with what it is you're teaching and sharing. And I almost see decade as a way to get you out of your own way, because it helps to eliminate some of the ego or emotionally charged decision opportunities that come your way. It keeps you grounded. It keeps things more or less, my words, not yours, pretty black and white to set you up for the best decision possible.
There's a black and white best decision. I mean, literally every single time. And that's really difficult to do in real time without letting emotion take over. And again, I hate saying this, but there's and again.
I'll to hypnotize that out of you.
It's like Tim Ferriss says that when he first listened to some of his podcasts, he had this tick that he had, and that and again is my tick. Anyways, God, say your question again. I literally distracted myself so bad there.
No, you're good. So just like it's black and white, like decade gets you out of your own way. It simplifies the decision making, removes the emotion, the ego.
It removes the emotion, the ego. But also what I do believe for junior golfers, college golfers, and parents of those that are listening, I truly start off every single little playing lesson like I did this weekend with the kid. And I'm just like, look, man, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to take it the right way. You're an idiot. And this kid goes to one of the best high schools in Dallas. He's already committed to Boston College. This is a smart kid. And I'm like, I say that as a joke, but you really have to understand your prefrontal cortex has not even really begun developing for you yet. You are not, it's not that you make bad decisions. You're incapable of making good decisions. I mean, even the smartest 18-year-old there is on the planet just does some of the dumbest stuff you can possibly imagine. And that's what I do believe, having a structured decision-making process you go through, it's just impossible to not make good decisions. And I do hate, one of the main criticisms I get is that I take credit for so many different players on the PGA Tour. And I'm like, well, maybe you've noticed that it's getting a lot younger right now. That is because we've eliminated the need for experience. That's literally what Stuart Sink, who's a decade member, said last year in Hawaii. They said, why do you think all these young guns are out here just crushing? He's like, because you don't need experience anymore. You can just buy experience. And he's like, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I subscribe to all the same materials that these young pros are, but there's at least 60 or 70 guys on the PGA Tour at this point that I've either worked directly with, or that they had the Decade app in college, or their coaches have attended the seminar or whatever. Like all of these young guys. And I do feel weird making a blanket statement like that. But every single one of these young guys on the PGA Tour knows what Decade is and understands what it is and are making better decisions because of it. Whether I've met them or not, like Brett McCabe is a huge fan, Mark Blackburn, all these great Como, all these great instructors know what it is. And again, they're not maybe teaching Decade specifically, but they're teaching the mindset of it. I would not have realized at the end of the day how much more mental Decade is than just strategy. The first 2 or 3 years, if you'd asked me, why does Decade work so well for young players, I'd have been like, I'm a genius. It's all the math and strategy. And then over the next couple of years, I'm like, oh, I'm just combating the lack of a prefrontal cortex. I'm just giving someone who's incapable of making good decisions a way to make good decisions.
Yeah, I love that. You use the word structure, like framework comes to mind. Yeah, I think that was incredibly well said. Process. Yeah.
Process. What's your process? You can be freaking out all you want to. If you can run, an equation as difficult as 140, that's 7, plus 3 because there's water is 10. The pin's 5 from that edge. We're going to be aiming 5 yards away from this flag. If you can run that simple of math, you can really pick within a yard or two optimal decisions. And that's what it's all about. The first few years, I remember thinking, I can't wait to see what someone else tries to make to replicate Decade. Because I'm like, I have thought long and hard about how I could make it, air quotes, better.
Yeah.
If there's any one thing I would do, maybe from 200 yards, I would tell you to add 5 for water instead of 3.
Okay.
But aside from that, and not a single other person has made a course management system yet. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to a number of Ivy League level PhD students, shout out Free Willy, who've been like, oh, I've reverse engineered all of your math and it's all correct. And I'm like, that makes me feel good. You're a PhD student at Columbia. I mean, statistics PhD student, smartest person I've ever met in my life by a mile. And he's like, yeah, man, it works pretty damn perfect. And it's really, really simple. That's the point.
Talk about validation. That's awesome.
Oh, man. I mean, trust me, those first couple of years, I was just like, oh, this is, hey, it works. And all of a sudden, once you start kind of like getting some notoriety in golf, there's a lot of really smart people out there doing it right now. And if it wasn't right, it would be exposed so quickly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there is one of my competitors that's finally literally just teaching it out on tour. And he says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm personalizing it to every single player. And I'm like, it's funny because everything I've seen has been the exact same numbers every single time. Sure, you might have them hit. This is what's even flawed about it. He says that he has guys hit 50 balls to start establishing their shot pattern. I'm like, really, where are you doing that? We're just in a simulator? That's not how it actually works. You're hitting balls off of a perfectly flat, perfectly clean lie. You need to start making some not assessments is the wrong word. The word I'm trying to say is, I can't even think of the word. You need to make some adjustments based on slightly above or below your feet. Your shot pattern is inherently bigger outdoors while playing golf than it is hitting 57 irons in a row.
Yeah, there's the uncontrollable variable that's present.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just obvious.
Yeah. So I'm curious, we've talked so much about the mindset rooted in course management strategy. I'm going to shift gears here. You've dealt with quite a few injuries, setbacks over the years, to say the least. I know. And I'm curious, like we've talked so much as an underlying theme about patience in, letting the birdies come to you, that a bogey avoidance mindset, if you will. How has what you've learned and gleaned and taught through decade helped you through your own recovery journey throughout all these years?
If there's when I was in my 20s, I never took a single day off, ever, because I hated the feeling of taking 2 days off, 3 days off, and coming back and feeling a little bit tight or whatever. Yeah. And now I'm just so good at understanding, what, my shot patterns, it might feel weird, but my shot pattern is not materially that different. I mean, obviously, I'm 51. I've been playing golf at, somewhat at the highest level for nearly 30 years at this point. I just don't get into results. And so when a bad shot or two happens, I just don't care. And a lot of meditation. I mean, it seems like we can talk, like I've experimented with mushrooms. And not in a, hey, we're going to a Grateful Dead concert sort of way, but in a, we're going to sit down and journal and think and be contemplative. And it is amazing once you start understanding that everything you're thinking and feeling is nothing more than a thought. And I feel like it starts getting a little hokey sounding, but a thought literally has no power until you give it power. Yesterday, I had a bad day all day. I was just so mad about this pool, and my wife had kind of frustrated me with something about it. And I just recognized I'm not kicking this, but rather than just spinning my wheels and yelling at everyone, I'm just going to sit upstairs in the media room and I'm going to watch a couple movies and I'm just going to stay away from people. That's to me like, and again, there's times when I'm on the golf course and I'm just super pissed off and I'm not able to shake it. At least I'm aware. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm aware that this is not good. And that's really what meditation is about that I didn't understand. I used to think it's about having no thoughts. Like if you're not just sitting there completely zenned out, like you're in a cave in India, then you're doing it wrong. And no, like it's chaos inside my head constantly. But by sitting down and trying to be still, trying to, again, not have no thoughts, but just recognize them and then not ruminate on them, allows you, hopefully, more consistently, to put that little bit of space, again, between stimulus and response. I've on the decade card, which is a plastic card with some notes and stuff on it, it says one of them is respond, don't react. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's everything.
Crucial.
It's just crucial. I mean, it's just everything in life. I mean, again, it is literally everything in life. I could have made my life probably a heck of a lot easier if last Thursday I hadn't lost my mind for about 20 minutes. Again, I try to be open with all the dumb stuff I do on the golf course. I try to be open with all the dumb stuff I do in real life. Like, yeah, I didn't accomplish anything. And I damn sure made my life probably a little bit harder trying to get this pool company, goldmedalpools.com, to, I actually don't know if that's their domain, trying to get them to do something that they should just obviously do. Like, that's where it's just so frustrating. This is the peak level of frustration, which is exactly analogous to a round of golf.
Yeah.
Back to the idea that Sam Harris talks about, we treat all these problems like anomalies. I used to get out there on the course, and when I would bogey a par 5 or have a 3-putt or make a bogey with a wedge, I would just lose my mind. And now that we understand, Tiger had these 5 things he was tracking: how many bogeys on par 5s, doubles, 3-putts, bogey with 9 iron or less, bogey inside 150 is easiest to track, and he tracked blown easy saves. I say track 2 chips. Mm-hmm. When one of those 5 things happens, if you know they're going to happen in every round of golf, when one happens, hey, there's 1. Hey, there's 2. I just shot back-to-back 72-hole scores under par, finished 8th at first stage of Champions Tour qualifying, and then missed getting status on the Champions Tour by 3, all while on a knee that was so bad I needed surgery immediately after final stage. And I still had 20 Tiger 5 mistakes in 8 rounds. That's 2.5 per round, which I'm stunned. Like, that's so good, it's ridiculous. I mean, that is honestly so good, it's ridiculous. But that's still 2.5 relatively pedantic. Like, when you finish a round of golf and think you should have shot lower, it's typically one of those 5 things.
Yeah.
You're like, I should have shot lower because this. It's like, I had 2.5 of them. I certainly could have thought I should have or could have shot lower. Mm-hmm. But also, you know what? I had a good break here, and I made this putt here, and it's just so funny how we don't account for that good fortune.
Yeah, we don't remember that.
You don't remember that? I shot 62, 10 under in one of my club events last year on a golf course with a 74 course rating. Like, this is one of the best rounds of golf I've ever played in my entire life. And I swear to God, we finished out, and Elliot, shout out Elliot, the first thing he said when I tapped in on 18, he goes, "Man, that could have been lower too. You had those 3 putts." And I was like, "That's 59, dude." I said that to him, and we all just immediately laughed. And it's like, that's how psychopathic all golfers are. Yeah. I just shot literally probably the best round of my life relative to the course rating. And the first thing someone said to me was not congrats, what a round was. That could have been lower.
True friend.
I mean, it's just like, it's comical. It's literally comical when you think about it. And again, like, we literally had a laugh and a drink, and I still give him crap about it every single time I see him, because it's like, and he is a lunatic. Like, he is a lunatic on the golf course. And that was a perfect thing to be his first reaction.
And it's so interesting that you come back to the Tiger 5, and I think everybody needs to hear this. I mean, to be frank, 10 times over. When you do notice, the double, the bogey on the par 5, whatever one of the aspect or the boxes you check, you have to invite in, I call it non-judgmental curiosity, because truthfully, they're just data points. They're learning lessons if you choose to view them that way. Otherwise, they can be the catalyst for disruptive and destructive anger, or insert any negative emotion that throws you off and ruins your round and the rest of your season. But if you're just curious, like, oh, I wonder why I had 3 putts today, it can help filter your lens of how you view your approach to practice and what you work on, so the next round you minimize those mistakes. And I think that's really important for everyone to hear. Just like you've kind of kicked things off in the beginning of this conversation, mistakes are going to happen. The course is going to challenge the hell out of you. You're going to make mistakes. What can you learn, and how can you do that learning away from the course and not prioritize course correcting in the middle of a round?
And what you say there is just exactly accurate. When the SMU coach is literally the one that told me I need to create. He's like, you need to teach this man. I've known him since college golf. You've got something here. Like, trust me, you wouldn't believe. Like, DeChambeau, I created the Decade Seminar for Bryson because the SMU coach said you need to teach it indoors because I would be considered a third paid coach. So can you teach this indoors? I was like, yeah. And honestly, the first time I was doing it indoors, I was like, this is the place to do it, because there's no emotion. Everyone's not worried about their swing. Everyone's not embarrassed with the shot they just hit. Nobody cares. We're just in here talking strategy. So what you just said about away from the course, as bizarre as this sounds, I do believe, and this isn't why I built the Decade app. I built it because, well, it's hard to sell something at scale around the world, and I have to teach this in person. Mm-hmm. I built it, but the more and more I thought about it, this is where the learning for course management should be done, with satellites and and VR and everything else, like we can 100% pretend we're playing golf. And now we're just what we're doing right now is working on decision making. We're not working on your swing or your putting or anything. We're working on decision making. And I do believe with it being a total accident, that doing it away from the course is just by far and away the place to do that. And I just, again, what I tell players to do is after your round, go have a snack and relax, whatever. And then that night or evening or whatever, I want you to do your 10-minute waking up meditation. And then I want you to journal on those Tiger 5 mistakes you had that day. Is there anything I could have done differently? And back to the kid from Saturday is, if that guy had sat down and thought, okay, I did a meditation. I bogeyed 2 or I bogeyed 1. You know what? It's 460 into the wind. Like that was just hard golf. Yeah. But the 1 on 6, if you can sit down and be objective and like figure out why did I decide? I mean, I literally texted him this morning. I'm like, that might be one of the most important shots you ever hit in your life. If you really ingrain why did you just not hit that full? Yeah. Like your stock is 115. We were 112. There's water short. I mean, why are we taking anything off of that shot whatsoever? This is a spot where just hitting the green and 2-putting it and trusting, you know what? Sometimes I'm going to mishit it. Sometimes I'm going to spin it back. Like I don't hit it just because it's 115. I hit it somewhere between probably 105 and 118. Yeah. Like there's just a huge range of outcome, both directionally and distance wise. And really, again, taking time. I used to think in my 20s and looking back at it, like how did me and my friends, after playing the Hooters tour around, just go sit at Chili's and talk about all the dumb stuff we did and not ever think of how we can get better? It never crossed my mind that we could make better decisions. I always, in looking back at it, think that I felt like I need to get better. I need to get physically better to stop making bogey from 110. And it's like, if you're going to aim at pins that are 3 or 4 yards from the edge of the green from 110 yards, you're going to make some bogeys. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not saying to aim at the middle of the green, but 2 or 3 yards right of it is a huge, huge amount of tolerance you're giving yourself for those slight pulls. And importantly, just to finish that idea off, if the pin is 3 from the left and I'm telling you to aim at 4 yards right of it with whatever club, you can't then hope you pull it. That's what I do believe most good players, and 100% of the tour players that I've talked to have said they do that. I mean, like 8 times around. And if you think about it, by definition, this is either a longer shot or it's surrounded by penal hazards, which is why we're aiming somewhat away from the flag to begin with. So it's kind of, by definition, a somewhat difficult shot. And now you're putting a non-committed swing at your target. Like I'd rather you aim at the flag and commit to it than aim away from it and just kind of hope you push it. It's so obvious how dumb that is. And I am not exaggerating. 100% of tour players that I've worked with, and we're talking 40 plus guys directly at this point, have laughed when we get to that part of the conversation. Like, oh my God, I do that 6 times around. It's like, it's obviously a bad idea, man. And they're like, I've always known that it is, but it's like, until you rub my nose in it, it's obviously stupid. Yeah. I'm just going to keep on doing it. And that's what Tiger was the goat at. Tiger, I've got a great video of him in the app where they asked him in the booth saying, Tigers, you've gotten older. Do you play more aggressively or more conservatively? And he's like, oh, I play aggressively, 100%. I play very aggressively, but I play aggressively to my spots. And so that spot might be more on the conservative side, but I'm still playing aggressively to it. And it's like, that's not the question. The question is, are you firing at flags or not? Not, are you playing correct golf and then playing with discipline to it? Like, you just actually answered the opposite of their question.
And that's what stands them apart among many other reasons. I love that.
100%. And that's what these young guys, again, I don't think we're going to see another Tiger Woods ever. The tour is just too deep. But even if it weren't, you have to have a unique combination of a kid who was taught by a Buddhist mother, to start meditating before he can remember. Yeah. He then had a Green Beret dad who was teaching him the discipline and the mental toughness and just screwing with him constantly in practice rounds. And it sounds like a joke, but it's really not. People say, when are we going to see the next Tiger? I'm like, when are we going to see the next Vietnam? Because Earl and Tita are not meeting on Bumble. Like, those profiles are not crossing each other, and they're not going to the same places. It only happened with Tiger because Earl was on leave in Thailand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's just those two humans don't meet anymore. So there's a much better chance of just getting Earl or just getting Tita.
Correct.
There's a very, very small chance of getting both and then happening to have someone who's got the physical skills that Tiger did. Like, it really is the perfect storm, and it's why he is by far the best player that's ever walked the planet.
Well said. And this entire conversation has been beyond insightful. I'm so grateful. I want to get you out on this, Scott. I want you to imagine you have one gigantic billboard that is viewable from every single hole on the course. What does that billboard say?
My first reaction is send it, then lag it. I mean, distance, if there's one thing that I do find funny that we needed distance to illustrate, is that hitting it far is important in golf. Yeah. I mean, guys literally used to just think that the distance was overrated, that, you know, getting it in the fairway was way more important. I mean, when Tiger turned professional, the vast majority of pundits did not think he would win the Grand Slam because he could never win the US Open because of, you know, spraying it off the tee.
Correct.
And it's so obvious in hindsight, like, well, let's look at the historical US Open champions. Nicklaus, Miller, Watson, like, this guy's kind of bombed it.
Yeah.
I mean, hitting it far is so important in golf, and that's so obvious. And it's just funny that we needed data to prove that. So hitting it as far as you can, and important to that then is, like I said earlier, shaping it one direction off the tee. Mm-hmm. You can maybe work your irons a little bit, but that's because you can change ball position to shift path around.
Yep.
Your driver's the least lofted club in the bag. You have to have a very static ball position as a result. And so in order to change from a draw to a fade, you need to move your path 6 or 8 degrees from one way to the other. So from 3 or 4 left to 3 or 4 right. I assume those numbers are relatively accurate. Well, I can do that pretty easily by just moving the ball back in my stance. I can kick pathway to the right, or up in my stance, I can kick pathway to the left. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I would go to YouTube and just Google modern ball flight laws, and you'll learn a lot about golf. But with driver, hitting it hard and hitting it one shape, and then again, it's just not that difficult to two-putt from 20 to 40 feet. And you really just don't have that many putts longer than 40 feet, you know, in a round of golf. So yeah, I'd prefer you don't 3-putt too often from 50 feet. But if you really master 20 to 40 feet, you're probably not terrible from 50, and you just don't hit that many shots outside of 50 feet on a daily basis. Really just mastering those 2 fundamentals, 3 fundamentals, let's say distance and shape and lagging. There you go. I mean, the game's, again, I hate saying this because it's the hardest game on the planet, but relative to how hard the game is not very difficult once you master those 3 things.
Simple, not easy.
That is exactly correct.
Yeah.
But we make it so complicated. It's insane. I mean, we make it so complicated.
Oh, yeah. That could be a whole other conversation. Yeah, I totally hear you on that. Mm-hmm. So everything we've talked about comes back to you, comes back to Decade. Where can our listeners go? I mean, I don't know why they don't have Decade already, but where do you need to send them to get Decade?
At this point, if you just go to decade.golf, we are finally maturing into an adult company to where we actually have used the domain that I've owned forever. So decade.golf is the way to go. I know I come across brash and like a know-it-all, but if you really do look at all this information, it's just so spot on and accurate. This is one of my favorite podcasts I've done in a long time. I'm definitely excited about it. And just the last thing I'll end it with is, You do need to track some statistics. I think we've all gotten a little carried away with strokes gained over the last 10 years, and I've probably been one of the main 2 or 3 guys leading that charge. But the more, especially as I've played more since turning 50 last year, the more I've played personally, the more I realize what I've always known, how flawed strokes gained driving and approach can be. Mm-hmm. And so we've really created a new interface where you track your Tiger 5 mistakes, and then you track greens and regulation, penalty off the tee, and strokes gained putting. Strokes gained putting is pretty good because it doesn't really matter what your putts are, since we're taking just the initial expectation from how long the putt was.
Yep.
And through combinations of those things, if you think about the purpose of statistics is to tell you what to work on. It's not to give you some touchy feel-good strokes gained number. The purpose of statistics is what do I need to work on? I'd be like, hey, I was plus 1.2 on the day. Like, I don't know, was the course wide open and fast? Because you probably looked like you drove the ball really well. Was it short and tight like Harbor Town? Like, when we're using these generic benchmarks, driving and approach really falls apart. And so I've really focused on creating a new interface that highlights, again, circling back to the idea, we want to learn what to work on. And then that's what you tell your instructor. And then my job as a course management expert is to show you, hey, we noticed you're making this Tiger 5 mistake more often than the rest, or you're doing that. And then we're going to get you content to help you focus on solving those mistakes. Because again, what I always like ending with is, if you feel like you should have shot lower every time you play, it can literally only be one of two things. You're either not as good as you think you are, or you made mental and strategic mistakes. And it's probably a subtle combination of both. Yeah. But I did not have a plan personally on how to stop making those silly mistakes. I wasn't even aware of what they were. I just knew I felt like I should have shot lower. What we're trying to focus on is helping you eliminate those mistakes and having that feeling every time you play, which will produce lower scores, which may or may not be sexy. But as one of my friends once told me, winning is more fun than fun is fun. So
I can't think of a better way to wrap this up. Absolutely. Scott, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. I know you found immense value in today's conversation with Scott. So not only do you need to go re-listen to this once, two, maybe three times more, but share it with a friend, share it with a fellow golfer so you can collectively all shoot lower scores and have more fun. And if you haven't done so already, take 30 seconds, leaving a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to today's episode goes a long way in supporting the show and also enabling me to bring on rockstar guests just like Scott. Thank you again.
I'll get to that because I've been on 100 podcasts and I don't know what it is, but that was one of the more impressive interviews and podcasts I've done. And so what I would tell your followers is really share. I'm not saying this for me, share this for him. So that way he can keep on growing this podcast. Cause I think you can do really good things with the podcast team. Like that was good, man.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it.
And listeners, have a fantastic day. Hit them straight this week and we'll catch you in the next episode.